Hello. Tyron the Chosen One Woodley has a very similar philosophy to all-time great Floyd Mayweather. The two are minimalists in their martial art. This means that they don't have an emphasis on a flashy, creative, crowd-pleasing arsenal, but instead, they mitigate your tools by waiting, moving on the back foot, leaving your attack range only to strike when they found the window to effectively do so. This has had tremendous backlash because many people want to just see a brawl. They cannot appreciate the more subtle details. The technique is avoided, mitigated, the composure is kept in that furnace of pressure. Thus, when they finally strike, it's almost as if it felt like a cheap shot. What just happened? Was his opponent even worthy? This seemed way too easy, but with deeper insight from Sun Tzu's Art of War, we find nothing could be further from the truth. Everything both these men are fall in perfect accordance with Sun Tzu's Tao. The good fighter of old must first put themselves beyond the possibility of defeat and then wait for an opportunity of defeating the enemy. To secure ourselves against defeat lies in our own hands, but the opportunity of defeating the enemy is provided by the enemy himself. Thus, the good fighter is able to secure himself against defeat, but cannot make certain of defeating the enemy. Security against defeat implies defensive tactics. Ability to defeat the enemy means taking the offensive. The general who is skilled in defense hides in the most secret recesses of the earth. He who is skilled in attack flashes forth from the topest heights of heaven. Thus, on the one hand, we have the ability to protect ourselves, on the other, a victory that is complete. To see victory only when it is within the ken of the common herd is not the acme of excellence. This is not the pinnacle. Neither is it the acme of excellence if you fight and conquer and the whole empire says, "Well done." This too is not the pinnacle. To lift an autumn hair is no sign of great strength. To see the sun and moon is no sign of sharp sight. To hear the noise of thunder is no sign of quick ear. What the ancients called a clever fighter is one who not only wins, but excels in winning with ease. Hence, his victories bring him neither reputation for wisdom nor credit for courage. He wins his battles by making no mistakes. Making no mistakes is what establishes certainty of victory, for it means conquering an enemy that is already defeated. Hence, the skillful fighter puts himself into a position which makes defeat impossible and does not miss the moment for defeating the enemy. That is what we have here. Observing these two fighters, their fight IQ is demonstrated by their ability to understand their opponent's tools and avoid them altogether, waiting for the window for their own attack. Thus, when they win, it almost seems so easy, almost cheap. The story did not have peaks and troughs. It was not music. The crowd could dance too. Instead, it was a flat line with only a few beats securing victory. What the empire calls boring, Sun Tzu, one of the greatest strategists in history, would call the acme of excellence, because his intention was to conquer your empire with as little damage to his own as possible. This allowed him to expand and conquer over and over again. The same thing can be seen with both of these men. The all-time great Floyd Mayweather without a scratch on his face, and Tyron Woodley, I'm sure, who even now is capable of fighting next week. For Floyd, he was someone who was much more appreciated by the masses after the fact, after all of his accomplishments, after he cemented his greatness. Tyron, on the other hand, does not like playing the villain. It is not natural to him. He is humble, down to earth, and overall a good person. Thus, his rewards probably will not come from an inflammatory character. He is not a villain, after all. He must embrace the other side of the coin. I believe. The hero. That means him giving away his power with a victim narrative, blaming the empire. It all only works to push these people away. Instead, taking it all in, holding his head high regardless, and speaking from his heart. No one has to be perfect. No one has to impress anyone. This just happens with a polar response when you express yourself authentically. People say bad things about you, people say good things about you, and these people argue, and that builds your name. That is just a natural occurrence when people express themselves authentically. I think if he can find his inner narrative and share that regardless of how people feel about him, he'll find what he was looking for. Until then, may we be certain his current underappreciated reign is directly correlated with his acme of excellence. For the truth remains, the more sophisticated a skill set is, the less it can be appreciated by the masses. Until, of course, we look back, taking a closer glance. Now, the Chosen One versus a much bigger man, the Liverpool superstar, talented with not just a large frame, but also a very high fight IQ. Woodley pulls him into his game. Darren Till, he likes to pressure and pick his opponents apart with a relaxed touch of technique, using that same relaxed touch to counter if his opponents extend. But Woodley, he remains calm, focused in the pressure. He knows Darren will engage, pumping his lead, as he traditionally does. Darren Till, magic trick, pulls Tyron's attention to the lead, but as he goes to gauge and block vision for that follow-up, it's the famous pull counter. Tyron, he pulls then slips to the outside, making his head further away from Till's backhand, whilst his right, it's fully loaded, right on center line. Boom. The pull counter is a technique famously used by Floyd Mayweather, but it's interesting. Tyron chose to work with Freddie Roach, who taught Manny Pacquiao a counterintuitive strategy when dealing with a larger opponent. As Conor Rubish highlighted beautifully in his Closing the Gap, the aim is not to enter past your opponent's reach, but counterintuitively have them give it to you instead. Tyron's reaction was on point, his power too heavy to handle. Naturally, with his wrestling pedigree and Till's concussion, Tyron earned his Jiu-Jitsu black belt, securing a submission. This was a learning opportunity for Till, a young prodigy who I foresee has a very bright future in the UFC. And for us martial artists and fans of the sport, it's another lesson delivered by the Chosen One, Tyron Woodley. He is unquestionably the real deal. I look forward to seeing what the future has in store for these two martial arts marvels. But now, in the present, thank you for the privilege to watch. Through it, may we gain a greater glint of appreciation for both athletes. If you'd like more from me, please subscribe and tick the notifications. That's definitely great for the channel. Thank you if you did. Smash that like button if you enjoyed. It's good karma. And until next time, peace.